Fans, thank you for all the continuous support we have been getting as of recent. I want to thank you guys for that. One, before we head into this episode, once again, this show has been great. Now, today, you will just be seeing me, Joseph Decker. There's no Jonathan today, which, if you're here for Jonathan, I'm sorry, still watch. But today, it's just me around the horn. And we're going to be talking mainly about the Kentucky job search right now for the next boys basketball head coach, the national championship game. And then we're going to touch a little bit on, we've talked about it a lot, but the NIL and the transfer portal. I was listening to an interview the other day, and it was all Bruce Pearl talking, which is somebody that people's really advocating to be the next head coach for Kentucky. Currently coaches at Auburn. We'll get into that later. But Bruce Pearl was talking a little bit about NIL transfer. So that's why I want to speak on that. We didn't have 2 episodes in the past 2 weeks because of spring break, so I apologize for that. A lot of people text me as to where it was, and like I said, spring break got in the way, but we're back, full action going on. We won't have any guests today, so hopefully you enjoy me because it's going to be all me today. But I promise I'll do my best to keep you entertained. Every bit of this, teach you a little something, hear about something you might be interested in. So let's go straight into it, and let's talk about our sponsors. Rafferty Studios. Today we're at Kyrock. Got a nice studio around me. Everything's perfect. I love this background, the white. It makes everything pop. It's great. I want to shout out all of our sponsors. We have CNA Plumbing. That is Craig and Adam. One of the best plumbing places you can go to. They're here in Edmonson County. Their number listed below. MPDT Designing. They can do about anything you want, from it's designing a cup to a T-shirt. So give them guys a check. The people we always have here, Lake Forest Recruiting Firm and Braden's Blessings. Thank you guys always for sponsoring us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Braden's Blessings is a charity. It was all started after the tragic passing of Braden Combs in 2019. If you're from Edmonson County, it's something that you hold dear to you. It was a tragic day. And what they have done with that charity is phenomenal. Lake Forest Recruiting Firm, I'm not as educated on it as Jonathan is. He usually does that one. But they recruit RNs, nurses. I know they are in the psychiatrics. They do a little bit of everything when it comes to nursing. They recruit some of the best. So, and last but not least, Grayville Funeral Home, honoring those we serve. They are in the top right up here by me, Roy Grayville and the funeral home. So now that we got our sponsors out of the way, let's dive into it a little bit. So last night at about 9:45, 9:50, we all kind of heard the news. John Calipari might take the job at Arkansas, which was shocking, not because, the chances of John Calipari taking a different job was kind of out of the blue. Right after the Oakland loss, about a week after, we had heard that the AD was going to keep Calipari, that he was going to run it back another season, keep everybody with him. And no coaching staff changes would be made. It would just be Cal running the helm. Well, that changed. We just figured out, like 25, 30 minutes after that Cal was taking the job at Arkansas, which shocked me not only because, one, it's in the SEC, kind of going to a rivalry school from Kentucky, which he coached at for 15 years, kind of shocked me. But the more I've heard, the more that's developed from it, it makes a little more sense why he went there. But Calipari out of Kentucky, a lot of people wanted it. A lot of people did want it. However, a lot of people didn't want it. You didn't want to believe in Cal that he could still win because, look, last 4 or 5 years, he's not made it past the first round or second round. He's not made it to the Sweet 16. And, I'll cut him some slack. The 2020 season where he had guys like Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickley, that team could have made a run, but COVID obviously canceled it. So, I hold him a little bit of slack for that. But still, the teams he's had, the Sheebway, this year with the amazing freshman class, how do you not at least make past the first round? You had St. Peter's, then you had Oakland, 2 really low seeds. Is it the coaching? Because you have the players. Is it the coaching? And a lot of people were saying, these are championship level teams if you have Coach Cal. Well, so Cal takes the job at Arkansas, and I've been doing as much research on this as possible because I don't want to spread false news. Things could come out in the future that are completely wrong, what I'm saying, and things come out completely right. That's why I have sources, John Fanta, one of the best insiders. Jay Billis has been posting. I've read countless ESPN articles. So I'm not going to try to provide you with news that's not true. So Calipari takes his job at Arkansas. I've heard that he is basically, guaranteed a contract worth $10 million plus. So If I'm not mistaken, the highest contract right now is 9.5 million in Bill Self at Kansas. So this would make Cal the most highest paid coach in college basketball, which he was already second. So, and I seen another report that said that Cal will alone be getting $5 million for just NIL, which means recruiting whoever he wants, getting whoever he wants, and attacking the transfer portal. Which in the era of college basketball we're in now, attacking the transfer portal is just as impactful as picking up these 5 stars and 4-star freshmen. And you know, you look at a team like Arkansas last season, they impacted off the transfer portal, but they also just lost a few guys to the transfer portal. So he's coming into an Arkansas team that disappointed heavily. They had a really rough season in the SEC. They didn't do great. And, you were definitely going to see a program switch because one, who from Kentucky is going to leave and follow Cal? We've seen today Aaron Bradshaw going to the transfer portal. Does that mean he's going to follow Cal? No, no. Because, I'd never really, Bradshaw, I expected so much out of him for how good he was in high school. And, the noise he made, being a McDonald's All-American, obviously he got hurt, the foot got hurt. So hold that a little bit. And he played behind on Yinso. And then Big Z comes back. And then you got a guy like Thero who can play the 4, played over him, outshined him a lot. So Aaron Bradshaw, I guess, didn't work for it. He didn't do as good as those guys because Bradshaw, he had a few games that were good. He had a Florida game, which he played very well. But he was never, the guy that I expected. I filled out my early season tonight. Bradshaw is the best player in Kentucky. I thought he was going to dominate. He can stretch the floor. He's great defensively. He's a good guy. Genuinely, he makes good noise. He's a good person. So seeing that really had me thinking, Aaron Bradshaw can be a big impact on this team. Well, obviously, I was wrong. So he's now gone. He's now in the transfer portal. So does he follow Cal? That's something to look at. And what all Kentucky fans are looking at, I posted this early last night, the first post I made on Facebook. Do we expect to see more guys follow? You look at the recruiting class they have coming in. Boogie Fland, Jaden, I can't pronounce his last name, starts with a Q. He's in the top 9. Carter Knox, brother of Kevin Knox, former Kentucky Wildcat. So you see these great recruits, do they switch? Travis Perry for even. Travis Perry is becoming a household name in the recruiting class because what he did in the state tournament, the name he's made, being the white guy from Kentucky, the small white guard, we just seen Reed Shepherd do it. Can Travis Perry be better than Reed? They played against each other. They both had great games. So, can Travis Perry compete this highly already? But I feel like Travis Perry is one of those guys who will stay. I think he's going to stay at Kentucky no matter what. He's a Kentucky guy, Kentucky Mr. Basketball. I think he's going to stay. And I know that Coach Cal had a great bond with his father. I was listening to a Cal interview, and Cal was talking about, after that state tournament, called his dad, talked to his dad. They had conversations. So I think Travis Perry, Kentucky fans, you can sure will stay. Now, with Cal leaving, one that everybody's been worrying about, will Adu Thero return to Kentucky, just testing the waters, and he'll come back, or is he gone? Well, I feel like with Cal going, we can assume Thero's gone. And somebody that I think is going to actively pursue Thero is Pat Kelsey at Louisville. And you say, well, why? Kelsey, at Charleston was a really defensive-minded coach. If you watch Thero, he gives it all on defense. He's lanky. He's a big guy. Somebody who played for Charleston when Pat Kelsey was there was Babacar Faye, who transferred to Western, but he was a very similar player to Adu, lacking the outside shooting. But somebody that I think could Thero go to Arkansas and follow Cal. It's possible. It's very possible, but I'm not sure yet. But here's what I'm getting to. With the money Cal's now got to abuse the transfer portal and NIL, Kentucky fans, kind of starting to say, well, is our team going to explode? Are we about to bust open and lose everybody? Like I said, I think a guy like Travis Perry will stay. We already knew Edwards was going to the draft. You can assume Rob and Reed will follow. So you lose those guys, obviously. Now, DJ Wagner, he is questionable, One, does he go to the draft? A lot of people have him as a late second rounder, but he has so much upside and potential for what he was in high school. Everybody knew of DJ Wagner because he would go after Mikey Williams. They were a point guard battle that would always happen. So he had the name. He came in. He was kind of disappointing. At the start of the season, he showed a lot of effort on defense. Shots just weren't falling. So, but he kind of progressed. He stayed starting. He dealt with an injury. So does he go to the draft and use his name to possibly land somewhere similar to what Justin Edwards is doing? Not saying they were bad players at all. They weren't, but they didn't live up to what we kind of expected. And it's hard to live up to that with the team Kentucky had, without a doubt. But we'll see where they go. Could they return to Kentucky? Could they follow Cal at Arkansas, or could they put their name in the transfer portal and go, similar to like what I think Bradshaw will do? I don't think he's going to go to Arkansas. However, it would be fun to see. Um, so, what everyone probably wants to hear is why did Cal kind of go to Arkansas? And, I was looking into it, and, Tyson, which is a huge brand, one of their head, I'm not going to lie, so I'm going to assume, I've heard this, it's one of their head guys, higher up in corporate, higher up in, their rankings. He is a good friend of Cal. So he's going to be there for Cal. He's obviously going to give him the sponsors he needs. He's going to give him the money he needs. And was honestly probably a big influence for him to take the Arkansas job, because I heard a lot of people saying, well, Calipari could go coach at LSU. He could go coach at UCLA. He could go coach in the NBA, but why does he pick Arkansas, But I think there's a lot more to it that we don't know yet. But, I think they said Cal was arriving soon. He was going to be there. I know he's having a players meeting with the current Kentucky team. I seen that on Twitter. Don't believe everything you see on the internet, but it was from a source that I could trust. That Cal was going to have a meeting with the players. So is he going to try to convince them, hey, man, you don't want to play Kentucky, go to Arkansas. Stay at Kentucky. Keep what you got here. You can be dominant. Put your name in the transfer portal. Go to the draft. This is my advice for you. I don't know. I would say it will be a mix of all those. I think it will be a mix of all those. So I like Calipari going to Arkansas. It's going to be fun because Arkansas, if you watched them or kept up with them at all, they were a very old team last year. Makai Mitchell, Khalif Battle, L. Ellis, former Louisville Cardinal, Devontae Davis, so Trevon Brazile, who is only a sophomore. They had a lot of guys. So they were an older team. So, to some of those guys, graduate, go on, test the league, maybe hang it up, go play overseas, or maybe see what they can do with their career. But then, they got a guy who was one of their best players in Tremont Mark, a junior. He just hit the transfer portal like not even 24 hours before Cal was hired. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see what Arkansas does with their roster and what they do, because Arkansas was a preseason, team expected to be good. Picking up L. Ellis was big because L. Ellis was great at Louisville. You already had the good guards, and you had a good amount of forwards. They lose early to Memphis. They lose to UNC Greensboro, and they lose to North Carolina. They lose 3 early games that you expect them to win. Then they beat Duke at home, which was a huge win. Then they start just falling apart in the SEC. They went 6-12 in the SEC. They were 8 games behind the first spot. They went 16-17. So Cal's coming into a team that, in NBA terms, would be rebuilding, which is accurate because they're going to try to get more guys. They're going to try to bring more people in. And with Coach Cal and the money, people's going to come in. There's going to be players come play for Arkansas. So the situation in Arkansas makes sense to me. And I think a lot of people's kind of realizing it makes sense. There's the Kentucky fans who wanted Cal gone, was very unappreciative of Cal, basically hated Cal, thought he was horrible, pathetic. I don't agree with that at all. Do I think his time at Kentucky was done? Yes. Not because he was a bad coach, but because if he's spent 15 years there, the fan base was starting to become, it was rough. I think he even came out and said he felt like the fan base and him weren't mutual. So him going made sense for him in his career. The money's there too. And money is everything in a lot of things, especially in business. So, and unfortunately, that's what college basketball is kind of starting to turn into more of, is a business. Said by Jay Wright, said by Rick Pitino, said by with the transfer portal, the NIL, it's becoming more of a business. So it's who can be the best businessman in a way. So let's transition a little bit into it. We're 14 minutes in. I want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in again. Huge shout out to Jeremy Wallman at the Cardinal Sports Zone, one of the best podcasts in the world. And that's not me being biased. He covers everything Louisville, WWE. He does so much. He has so many pages. Go check him out. He's been great to us. He's been great to me. He's taught me a lot of things. He's helped out a lot. I want to say thank you again, Jeremy. His comment was, thank goodness for no Jonathan. I don't agree with that, but thank you again. So, like I said, let's transfer into the candidates for this Kentucky job. Now, there's some people who are some just home run type of guys. You get this guy, that's a home run type of situation. This guy's more of a, it's reasonable. It's reasonable. This could happen. You got the, we'll take him, but he's not what we want. That he wasn't our first goal. And then you got the, well, I guess we're going to suffer for him. Which Kentucky, with the money they have, the culture they have behind them, you're not going to get somebody terrible. You're not going to get a mid-major coach. You're going to have people beating on the door for that job at elite level schools. So you're going to get a good coach, I feel like. It's without a doubt. So the first name is Rick Pitino. And let me say this. I don't think Rick Pitino is going to happen. And one, that's because I don't believe Kentucky has any, plans to go after Rick Pitino. And it's not because, Rick Pitino wouldn't come in and immediately make an impact. He would. Rick Pitino is still a great coach. Um, and I heard a lot of people saying, well, Mitch Barnhart, which is the AD for Kentucky, he wouldn't do anything to go back to Pitino. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. It make no sense. Which to me, it doesn't make sense either. Would it be awesome? Yeah. Would a lot of people love it? Yeah. Would it be huge in the media? Of course. I just don't think it happens. We know the coach Rick Pitino is, the success he's had. If Pitino doesn't ever leave Kentucky in the 90s for the Celtics, is he the most winning coach of all time? In my opinion, he would have been. And Kentucky probably would have had another 1, 2, 3 banners, possibly. If he did, they wouldn't have had that, late 2000 stretch where they were kind of rough. Can Jody Mix give us 50 and we win tonight? Those teams. So, getting a little bit off topic, but Patino to me doesn't make much sense. I'm going to go to another one who I think is a home run type of play, but he would be phenomenal. Jay Wright, former Villanova coach, a great person, great in the media. But one thing, if you know Jay Wright, he's talked a lot. He's really glad he got out of college basketball, coaching wise, and went to the analyst route because he can analyze the game. He can talk about the game. He can view the game as whole, not just worried about Villanova and their opponents. So he gets to focus on everything. Making money, of course. He gets to lay back. He doesn't have to work as hard. I don't see him coming back to college basketball. And it's not because he doesn't love the game. It's not because he doesn't want to win. No, it's because the way that college basketball is right now, so heavily relying on the NIL and the transfer portal. He doesn't like that. He kind of got out of there early. You heard Rick Pitino say, Jay Wright got out of here early. He did it right, which is true. Jay Wright, you're like, who's Jay Wright? Well, I'm assuming everybody watching this knows who Jay Wright is. But, was the coach at Villanova for a very long time. He won 2 national championships in 16 and 18. And he's a phenomenal coach. He's a phenomenal person. Like I said, a great media guy. So it's a home run type of attempt, but I feel like you got to attempt it, With the job Kentucky is, how great of a coach he is, you land him, it brings a lot of the BBN back, the Big Blue Nation back, everyone hype, happy. Last one is Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens, longtime coach at Butler, longtime coach of the Boston Celtics, an amazing person. Once again, does Kentucky want a questionable guy who's going to come out here and say things controversial all the time? No. Do they want a guy who's going to fight with the fans, get into it? No. Do they want a guy I feel like will hold their own ground? And, well, actually, let me say this. Kentucky fans are kind of crazy when it comes to it. I heard Scott Decker, shout out Scott Decker on Facebook. He said, we have the best and the worst fan base at the same time. Because you got the people who will attack you. You got the people who might feel bad for you. And then you got the people who's going to do both. You win. Oh, we love him. He's the best coach ever. You lose, you got to go. It's weird. That's why I liked Cal so much because I feel like, one, I liked Cal. Cal was a good coach. And second off, I feel like he didn't deserve a lot of the hate he got. He basically got ran out of his job in a sense, it feels like. So, Duke fans, I just got a message from Trapper. Duke fans are crazy. Duke fans are crazy. Duke fans are very crazy. Duke fans are ones I wouldn't want to mess with at all. Especially in Cameron Indoor, outside of Cameron Indoor, but we were blessed to have, Coach K, a guy who you never had to worry about running out of the coaching job. You never had to worry about him. But now with John Shire, I think they made the right choice. And, he was a higher up assistant. That's why he sat behind Coach K. He got hired because of how he experienced behind Coach K. It's been worth it. Same for North Carolina. Hubert Davis came and coached after sitting behind Roy Williams, was 100% worth it. Those two guys have probably solidified themselves as top 25 coaches in college basketball, maybe higher top 15, especially after the run Duke made, this year. And then the run they made when he was the assistant coach in Coach K's final season with Paulo Vaquero. So, but, Kentucky doesn't have that high assistant coach to kind of rely on. You had Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne goes to Louisville. And I said, can you imagine if Kenny Payne stays at Kentucky, never goes to Louisville, stays at Kentucky, and right now people would be like, let's get Kenny Payne as the head coach. Would it go differently than Louisville? Maybe. He would have got a lot more backing. He would have got a lot more, probably love. But you wouldn't have, seeing what he did at Louisville, would you have wanted him at Kentucky? That's the question. But Brad Stevens right now is high up in the. He's high up. He gets to sit in his box. He gets to work all day outside of basketball. Really, he's the general manager. I'm pretty sure. Is he the GM for this Boston Celtics? Um, because he coached Boston throughout the 20. Yeah, Brad Stevens is the Boston Celtics general manager, and so does he leave that job? He gets to deal with NBA deals all the time. He doesn't have to work with transfer and the NIL. He gets to do NBA deals, work with grown men. Would he leave that for another head coaching job? Maybe if the money's there, maybe, which it'll be there. It's Kentucky. They can provide all the money in the world. But would he leave that job, though? Would he leave the Celtics franchise that he's been with for a decade now? I don't know. So those are the guys that I feel like are just kind of out there. And this guy's also kind of out there. Let's go to a reasonable guy that most people want and I think will be pursued. We got Dan Hurley. So Dan Hurley coaches UConn currently. The bald guy wears the glasses. Historic family, a phenomenal family. One of the best family in sports, the Hurley family. Last season, college basketball championship. He's playing in it tonight at 8:20 against Purdue. We'll talk about that a little later. So Dan Hurley is coaching at UConn. He's making $5.5 million last time as I checked. Don't know what the buy will be. Don't know how all that'll work out. But they said they're going to pursue Dan Hurley, which makes every bit of sense in the world. Now, the thing about Dan Hurley is he is a hot mouth. He says a lot. He has a huge ego. So it would be fun to see him at Kentucky, but it would be kind of weird to see how he interacts with the fan base. He's dominated the Big East. He's proven himself as a great coach. I got to watch, like an hour and a half of footage of his practices, and he puts those guys through hell. There are no easy practices. He's constantly work, 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 work. He kind of 50-50 splits defense and offense. Both of his defense. I think they were second ranked in offense, fourth ranked in defense. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? They have the players, of course, but coach, you got to be a good coach to do that. So he can recruit as well. He pulled up Stephon Castle. Might be pronouncing that right. Might be Steven. I think he was the 8th ranked player last season. He got Clennigan, the best player in UConn. He dominates the transfer portal. Cam Spencer right now has been their best player at times this year. One of the best shooters in the country. Tristan Newton just won the Bob Cousy Award. Best point guard. Bob Cousy, Jerry West? Bob Cousy. Just won best point guard in the nation. So, and where did he play? He played at East Carolina. He wasn't recruited in college. He wasn't recruited in high school at all. No Power 5 schools. 0 stars. Went to East Carolina. Played up, got great. Looked at heavily by Dan Hurley. Been a star there. Probably one of their biggest players last season. Probably the third best on that team besides Adam and then Jordan Hawkins, who went on to the league. And he's been just as great. So, Hurley can coach. Hurley is a phenomenal coach. You say, well, he's in the perfect spot. He's going to lose a lot of these guys. But you can say, well, he can recruit, so he can bring them all back. But he can abuse the transfer portal, which is fair, very fair. He can bring back another elite level team and possibly be here again next year. But the Big East is I've kind of seen a lot of reports. I had a few comments on it. The Big East are experiencing some things right now. I've seen someone say the Big East kind of falling apart. So if you see the Big East falling apart, this could go into just a hellhole. You get out of there. I could see that. So if you go after Dan Hurley, you got to throw him over $10 million. You're going to have to give him that bag. And, if he wins tonight, he probably won't go. If he loses, there's a little bit more of a chance. So that's Dan Hurley for you. Let's get into the next one. Nate Oates from Alabama. One of my personal favorite coaches, but kind of like Hurley, it's not as bad. He's got just as big as a hot mouth and he's just as big as a hothead, but he's not got as big as an ego as Hurley. But Nate Oates likes to talk. He gets involved in the game. 4 straight college basketball tournaments appearances, and this season made the Final Four before losing to UConn. Once again, like I said, he has a hot head. He loves to talk, and he's got an $18 million buyout. And I seen that, and then I seen another, $18 million. Is he worth it? You got to pay him still. I seen a lot of people say Nate Oates is out of the equation. I checked at about 1 o'clock. Twitter, he's out of the equation. So if he's out of the equation, why should we be talking about it? That's a fair point. But I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. So we're going to mention Nate Oates. A lot of people want Nate Oates. A lot of people. And I think he'd be fun at Kentucky. I think it'd be interesting, like Hurley, to see how he interacts with the fan base. And I think he's a good coach. But the money, $18 million buyout, they ain't got to pay him. Billy Donovan, everyone wants Billy right now. And I think Billy would be a phenomenal coach because Billy is one of the best coaches of all time. And I will stand on that because of the work he did with the Oklahoma City Thunder was great. Um, the work he did at Florida was great. He was a runner up in 2000, I believe. I don't want to be wrong, but and then the back to back titles. Dan Hurley could possibly be the only coach to go back to back since Billy Donovan that did in Florida in 06, 07. And people try to discredit, those teams were stacked, man. Donovan's a phenomenal coach. Everywhere he goes, he wins. He is great with guards and bigs, so he's not favoring on one side. He can be a great coach for the players. Um, he's a respected household name, which, you say, well, he's old. He hasn't been in college basketball. Can he still recruit? Will he be able to work with this? He's a household name. He's loved by people. And when you go to Kentucky, obviously, I think you still need to know how to recruit, persuade, be a little bit of a businessman, but people's going to come to Kentucky for the culture. This is people say, well, Cal's gone. The culture's not dead. The people still want to play at Kentucky. It is probably all time the greatest college basketball, team ever. Though they don't have 11 NCAA championships like UCLA. What has UCLA done in the last 30 years? Excuse me if you're an UCLA fan. What have they done? They dominated 40s, 60s, things like that. Bill Walton, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they dominated back then. Kentucky has been consistently kind of falling off now, but they've been consistent forever. So that's what kind of pushed them up into the players they've pushed to the league, but talking college. So Billy Donovan is who a lot of people want, who I personally would love to see there because I love Billy Donovan. And, I think it would be fun. I seen a post that said Billy Donovan is expected to show interest. So, we can kind of expect Billy Donovan to be in this talks. Next up is Scott Drew. Scott Drew is a guy that almost every Louisville fan wanted to come be their next head coach. I don't know what happened there. That's a question I asked Jeremy Wallman from the Cardinal Sports Zone. He's into that more. I don't know what happened there. Was he not pursued as much? I think I seen at one point they were going to offer him over $6 million to be their coach. I don't think it worked out, I guess. They got Pat Kelsey, which I didn't talk about Pat Kelsey. I love Pat Kelsey. But Scott Drew is loved by the media. He's a good guy. He genuinely is a good person. He is loved by everybody and respected. And Baylor has been a little disappointing since their 2021 national championship, which was a phenomenal team. But Scott Drew is big on defense. And Kentucky teams, after seeing last season where you were allowing 90 a game, they want defense. They want the old mentality. Calipari used to be a mainly defensive-minded coach. Anthony Davis, Nerlens Noel, Karl Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein. You had guards like Tyler Ulis who hustled on every play. Ashton Hagans, Dominique Hawkins. You had these guys who preached defense. They had those offensive powers who could complement them. And then you had the guys who could do both. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Terrence Jones, Anthony Davis, And players are just as talented now as they were then. So there can still be people like that. It's just getting them in that mindset. And it's harder now in today's era to teach kids, let's do defense above offense. It's harder, obviously. And I'm not going to say it's for the worst, but it's different and it's harder to manage, without a doubt. Scott Drew, it's been talked about a lot. A lot of people say he's going to be the coach because they feel like the Donovan, the Oates, the Wright, and the Stevens is already marked out. Hurley wins tonight. He's marked out. You're left with Scott Drew. That's the best thing. Being said, I'm left with Scott Drew. Almost any college basketball team would love to have Scott Drew. So that just shows how many people are being looked at for this Kentucky job and how great it is, and how great it can be, coaching at Kentucky. So I got two more names I'm going to talk about a little more. There's a lot of more people obviously to be talked about, but these two guys. Next up is Tommy Lloyd, who I've seen be talked about a little more. I was in a Kentucky group chat. It's called like BDN Talk or something. They're like, where's Tommy Lloyd's name of this? I've listened to not too many Tommy Lloyd press conferences, but he came in kind of after the whole Sean Miller scandal at Arizona. All that went down. He came in and coached there. Tommy Lloyd, it's hard to be better than Tommy Lloyd in the regular season, unless you're maybe like Purdue or UConn. Because Arizona was dominant last year. 2 seed. This year, 2 seed again. So back-to-back 2 seeds, but no tournament success. You get bounced last year to a 15 seed Princeton, and then this year you go out to Clemson, which is a team they should have beat. Clemson got hot. Clemson played better. Clemson's a good defensively team. Arizona just, I guess, you could say, did they go in thinking they were going to wipe that game and got upset? I don't know. But their star center, Omar Ballo, who averaged 13 and 10 a game, is transferring. So is that, Caleb Love's going to go to the league. You got guys like Kylan Boswell. What's his future? So is Arizona going to kind of fall apart a little bit? Maybe. Are they going to fall apart and become irrelevant? No. They're still going to probably win 20 games. Obviously, it's Arizona. But, Arizona, Tommy Lloyd's an option. He's not 50 yet. He's higher 40s. And but the thing that scares me is he's not been, and I've seen some people say, well, Nate Oates can't win at the high level. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Nate Oates can beat the best teams in the SEC consistently. He has made noise in the tournament against teams he probably shouldn't have beat. He beat this year's North Carolina team, which is a great team. I don't care what people say. Some were like, well, they're one of the weakest one seeds we've ever seen. They were a great team. They were old. They had dominant scores. They were great at defense. And they had depth. So Nate Oates, yes, can win at the high level. Tommy Lloyd has not proven he can in tournament time. So he's scary to go after because, well, does he bring a lot of tournament experience? What does Kentucky want? They want, obviously, a Sweet 16 appearance. They haven't gotten a while, but they won a championship. It's been, 2012. It's 12 years. It's been 12 years. So they won a title. You can't bring in a guy who's not even got past the first round last year with the team he had, and then this year got bounced to the Clemson squad. And last but not least, the guy I feel like I say everyone wants Hurley, everyone wants Donovan, but everybody kind of wants Bruce Pearl. And I'm not going to try to be biased here, but I love Bruce Pearl. He is my personal favorite coach in college basketball. Everybody would want a Bruce Pearl. He is a great business guy. So one, he can do great in the recruiting class. He can do great in transfers. Second off, phenomenal person. Some of the charities he does, some of the things he does for people is on another level. And like I said, a great person, a good media guy. I just got done, like I said earlier at the start of the video, I just watched 2 of his 20-minute press conferences. I love listening to Bruce Pearl. And despite being at Auburn, who's kind of built, a rivalry with Kentucky that needs to be talked about more, the Kentucky-Auburn rivalry is here. He's liked by Kentucky fans. People like him. They recognize his game. They respect him. People like Bruce Pearl. Auburn, he's not won a national championship with Auburn. You could say was it 2018 or 19 when Virginia got past them in that Final Four game. Well, that was a bullcrap call that happened on Kyle Guy in the corner. That 2018-19, I'm not exactly sure on the season. I don't want to be wrong, so I'm going to estimate. They probably should have beat that Virginia team. And that Virginia team, you could have Bruce Pearl in the championship. Yeah, it was that season because they would have played Texas Tech. Bruce Pearl could have won a championship that year, and his name would be respected a lot more. Similar to how Scott Drew's name was already respected, but he wins that title at Baylor, his name is 10 times more respected. But with the impact Bruce Pearl already has, despite not having a championship, it's huge. Also, he's 64 years old. I've not been talking about age too much here, but you got the guys like Tommy Lloyd, Dan Hurley, Nate Oates. They're younger. Then you got the Scott Drew. He's kind of middle. You got Donovan. Donovan's only 58. Billy Donovan. Then you got Brad Stevens, probably the youngest on this list. And then you got Jay Wright, who, he's retired from college basketball, but he's still not, 65 years old like Cal was. And then, so would you want Bruce Pearl as your coach? Do I think Bruce Pearl's a phenomenal coach? Yes, but it just feels weird thinking about him at Kentucky. And I know that sounds crazy because you see all these edits, these photos of Bruce Pearl edited in a Kentucky suit, the one that's been trending around. Shout out Chad Pierce. He posted that on Facebook. I've been using that graphic since. I don't know if he made it, but I mean, it's going everywhere. So shout out that. So does Bruce Pearl maybe get the call, get an offer if these other guys don't pan out, or does he get a call before these other guys? No, I feel like it's all who does Mitch like the most that's available. And from what I've heard, it's Dan Hurley right now is number one. Who doesn't want Dan Hurley? I feel like if Kansas might even want Dan Hurley over Bill Self. And that sounds crazy saying, which is probably not true. But Dan Hurley has just proven himself as such a good coach, and he's into the game. He's often into it. So those are my names that I have. We got Nate Oates, Billy Donovan, Dan Hurley, Scott Drew, Jay Wright, Brad Stevens, Tommy Lloyd, Bruce Pearl. It feels like, it's now safe to write off Nate Oates because, the buyout's so high. I don't feel like they want to pursue that. I feel like it's just safe to write out Jay Wright. As much as you want Jay Wright, are you going to get him out of the role he's in right now? And is he going to come back and coach in this era of college basketball? I don't feel like he will. And then You also have the Scott Drew option, which I love. I love Scott Drew. I wanted him to go to Louisville, but coming into Kentucky, I think is possible. But once again, like everyone wants Dan Hurley. I don't want Dan Hurley to leave UConn because I watched the 2020 press conference when he said, "Get ready, we're coming. We're going to be dominant, and you guys are just going to have to sit back and watch." And what's he done? He's kept his word. He's built Donovan. He's built UConn into probably the best program in college basketball in the 2020s, without a doubt. So, who do you guys? I want some comments. I know there's a few people, 22 people watching right now, which is good because I'm sorry I didn't have a decided date. Decided time. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it at 3:10. Sure if I could do it 3:15, 3:30, 4 o'clock. 4. So I kind of waited a little bit. I started at about 3:45 ish, which is good. The middle of the day, a lot of people still at work, so I want to thank again. I did it once, but I want to thank everyone here for watching right now. Show's not over yet. Got about probably 10 more minutes. Show's not over yet. I want to thank everyone here for watching, tuning in. Some huge guys, Jeremy Wallman, Trapper Harris. Thank you guys. Trapper Ferris, thank you for tuning in and watching on YouTube. It means a lot. And we got 22 people in here from Twitter right now. So thank you for the people from the Twitter X community, always supporting us. So, like I said, tell us who you think will be the next Kentucky basketball head coach. I want to hear from the people. I've already heard from the people a lot. I've been posting a lot on Facebook. So let's see who it's going to be. And now let's transition into the game tonight, which means a lot to Kentucky in a way because, if Dan Hurley loses tonight, does he maybe think about leaving UConn? Which feels weird to say because he just won it last year, But, college basketball, it's like I said, a business now. It's more of a business. So UConn has been running away with the tournament. Their closest game was, that Illinois game. At the end of the first half, it was within 5 points. I think it might have been closer than that. And then they come out on a 30-0 run. You just don't do that in the Elite Eight. I still think that's absurd to just sit and think about. They ended up winning that game 77-52 against probably the best offensive team in the country. So UConn's running away with the tournament right now. And everyone says, well, it's not even going to be close. Which I do agree that UConn will win. I do think they will win. But a big way that teams have been able to control UConn is shutting down Tristan Newton. Make him have a rough first half. Don't let shots fall. And, in the UConn game, I think there was a graphic at one point, they were shooting their starters shooting 1 for 19. But then their bench came in, carried the load. So they have two great platoons. They don't have a full 5 that comes off the bench. But, you have Johnson, you have Stewart, you have Diarra, who's a phenomenal defender, effort guy. So they have, guys off the bench who can come in and make an impact. So they're just such a deep team. And I don't want to just talk about UConn, but, Donovan Clingan has probably been the best center in college basketball behind Zach Edey, plays for Purdue. But Clingan is someone that Edey's not really had to play against yet in this tournament. Edey is, 7'4", about 300 pounds. Donovan Clingan is every bit of 7'2", and he's 280 pounds. And he is so much more athletic than Edey. Donovan can get off the ground. Donovan is a guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's not really got a three-point shot, but he shot 7 in the season. But he can play phenomenal defense. He can make a little bit in the post. He's a really good rebounder. He can score, and he can play defense. So he's going to be Edey's biggest challenge. And a big shout-out to DJ Burns and just NC State in general, holding Edey to 20 points. It's incredible for how he's been playing. Edey was on the path to scoring the most points in a tournament run ever, trying to pass to Glenn Rice, but he did. But he's not probably going to. I think he would have to score 42 tonight, which, with Zach Edey, I guess it's possible. You send him to the line 17 times like you did against Tennessee. It's possible, but I don't think it happens. So this is the best somebody can match up with Edey is Donovan Clingan. I said it earlier, Tristan Newton, phenomenal point guard. What can he do? 15 points, 7 boards a game, 6.5 assists. He is like I try to compare him to an NBA player real quick, guy who can rebound. I'd say like Russell Westbrook, Luka, but he's not doing it that high level. But yeah, let's do it. A guy who's a triple-double threat. And he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, which is impressive. He's 2.5 turnovers on 7 assists. That's a good ratio. So And then you got Carabin, who was on the team last year, sophomore, really good shooter, can guard up, play defense, can rebound the ball good, stands there beside. So I could talk about it all day. The starters are great. Cam Spencer, one of the best shooters in the country. The transfer, who's huge, um, came from Rutgers after last season. Originally played at Loyola, Maryland. So, you know, UConn's got everything in the world you could want. They are good everywhere. They're great everywhere. Um, but no slack on Purdue. Let's talk about Purdue. A lot of people are saying, let's take Purdue. They have the best player in the country, the guy who's going to get to the line. Which, let me say this, Zach Edey is not necessarily fun to watch. A lot of people say, because he gets to the line so much. Folks, I've seen the excuses of people. I'm not going to try to hate on people. Let's not just be box score watchers. If you're going to talk, at least watch, a good portion of the game, because people are saying, well, Zach Edey's beating NC State because he's dominating from the foul line. He hit 2 free throws the whole game. He went twice. He hit both. He played the whole 40 minutes. So make sure we know what we're talking about a little bit. Then let's not just hate on Zach Edey. Do I think his style of play a lot of times is boring? Yeah, it is. It is at times. And something he's not talked about a lot is that he turns the ball over a lot when it comes to post playmaking. So Zach Edey is going to get to the line. He's going to score. Is he going to put up 20? I don't know. Donovan Clennigan and him is going to match up. It's going to be good. So, and I don't want to knock guys off. You got Braden Smith, who is probably the best playmaker in college basketball. He is a phenomenal guard. You got Fletcher Lawyer, who a lot of people don't like, but the guy can shoot the ball on a whole different level. He shot 45% from 3 this season. And that's the thing with Purdue is you get Edey posted up, like similar how DJ Burns plays, you get Edey posted up on the free throw line, and he can just play make from there. And you say, well, how can he play make from there? They bring the double team. He swings it out. Purdue shot 41% from 3 this season as a team. Unless the graphic on ESPN lied to me. Yeah, 40.8. They shoot 40.8% from 3. That's unheard of. And you say, dang, 40.8% from 3, and their best player is their center who can't stretch the floor. He hit 1 3 on the season, I'm pretty sure. So he's got a phenomenal team around him. Edey's going to have his game. He's got a phenomenal team around him, but guys like Lawyer, guys like Braden Smith can't shoot 1 for 9 like he did against NC State. Lawyer's going to have to hit his shots. They're going to have to get open. Let me say that, 4th-ranked defense. Going to have to get open. Lance Jones is going to have to be big. He's going to have to be physical. The transfer from Southern Illinois. These guys, their guards are going to have to be huge because they don't run a huge lineup outside of Edey. Jones is 6'1". Braden Smith is maybe 6 foot. Yeah, 6 foot, 175 pounds, and Fletcher Lawyer 6'4", 180. So they're not big compared to UConn, but they're offensively on the same level, I would say. Not athleticism-wise, but when it comes to shooting, scoring, they're on about the same level. I'm not a sports bettor, but right now UConn has the 7.5-point favorite. They are 55% favorite to win to UConn to produce 45%. So the game tonight is at 8:20 Central Time. Tune in. It's going to be great. National championship last year was not watched halfway like they have been in the past. College basketball still, in my opinion, is the best sport we got. I love it more than anything in the world. And let's watch the game. It's going to be a good game. It's late, 8:20. It is late, but come on, let's sacrifice. It's just a Monday night. Thank God Monday's over. So we had a good episode here. Let me talk about this, the Bruce Pearl thing I talked about, the NIL. And it's sad because, like Bruce Pearl said, I met with my players. I talked to him. I got to sit down with them. He said his player meetings went well. So Auburn looking to keep most of their guys. Maybe not send them all to the league. I know Katie Johnson, who was the longtime backup guard for them, is going to transfer and take his last year. But he still wants to get his degree at Auburn. So we'll see how that pans out. You got Aiden Holloway, Johnny Broome, Jalen Williams. You got so many guys there who might stay, might go. So Auburn, Bruce Pearl, would he leave that team, come back next year with almost similar to the same team and make a run after losing the first round to Yale, 4-13 seed? Maybe. So he said it's crazy when I talk to my players, which I spent money on, he pursued them with money, are getting caught up on the daily by 5-10 teams saying, we'll give you more money than Auburn can ever hand you. Auburn can't pay all those guys, elite level money. So that's just crazy what the transfer portal and the NIL is right now with the money situation. It's crazy. And that's why I think one of the main reasons John Calipari is going to Arkansas is that $5 million, which it could be more, it could be less, but this is what I've seen. He gets $5 million alone to spend strictly on NIL and transfers. So look for an Arkansas team that's hungry next season. Look for an Arkansas team that's well coached because I still think Calipari is one of the best coaches of all time. His awards stand by it. He has succeeded. You obviously want more titles. I think he only has the one. He didn't win at Memphis, and then at Mass, he lost. He had never beat Kentucky at Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure. If he did, he might have won one or two games. But I've seen the graphic where he was playing at Massachusetts. He was at Massachusetts. Played Kentucky. He was on 3 against them. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, every Kentucky fan is going to be on social media every second of the day for the rest of the while. They're going to be seeing who leaves, who stays, how's the situation, who are we going to hire. I said yesterday, I feel like we could know who's coaching in the next 48 hours, and we might not know who's coaching for the next week. And I said that because I think Kentucky is going to pursue Dan Hurley more than anybody. And it all depends on, tonight. Does UConn win? Does it not? But UConn could lose, and he would still probably not lose. So I'd probably not leave. So tonight's going to make an impact, I think, on how Dan Hurley, how it goes, the UConn game. You kind of maybe write Nate Oates out of equation because the $18 million buyout. Billy Donovan's still a chance. It's still a good chance, You're not really heard nothing that says he's not. Besides, would he leave the NBA? Scott Drew, I think is still a very good chance. I think Brad Stevens is not probably going to happen. He's got the perfect job. And Jay Wright, it feels like it's not going to happen. It feels like it'd be a fever dream. Tommy Lloyd probably could happen. It's just, do you want him being your coach? And then Bruce Pearl, I feel like could happen very well. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it pans out. Who will be the next head coach for Kentucky basketball? 47 minutes in, folks. Thanks again for tuning in and watching. We have all of our viewers on Twitter right now. Love Twitter. Great platform. So I'll go ahead and say some final remarks. If you want to follow us, it's on YouTube. It is at the Wildcat Alley. So here, let's pop it up. We'll run a little thing here. How to follow us on Twitter and YouTube at the Wildcat Alley. On Facebook, follow Jonathan Williams or myself, Joseph Decker. Either works. You might be seeing me go live a little more on my own, doing my own little thing. But to say Jonathan's gone, no. He couldn't make it today because he had a meeting, which is 100% understandable. But I told him, I said, let me take the gun. He said, 100%, let's do it. I want you to do it more. I think you've got to that point. Once again, like people know, I came up to Williams with this idea. We were supposed to go on, we were supposed to do a thing with Third Region Hoops, who has changed to Sports Connect Media. Want to let that known. Sports Connect Media is what Third Region Hoops was. They're covering a lot more. They're doing baseball, football, they're doing basketball. They're covering Rotter. They're into the 4th region now. They're led by the guy Cody. Gotta love Cody. It's a great thing. I love that place. I guess I call them Sports Connect Media now. I love Sports Connect Media, formerly known as Third Region Hoops. So make sure to keep up with them. We talk a lot. We do it feels like we do the sit down to talk, the podcast, the shows. They are the best place to go for immediate updates. So, especially when high school season. You know how many things I got from Third Region Sports Connect talked about? Hey, can I use this? It was big. So make sure to go check them out. Follow them. I want to shout some things out. Tonight there is a baseball game. Starts at 5:30 in an hour. The Wildcats play Warren Central. So go watch the Cats play. Baseball season 7-5 right now. Big shout out Hunter Wilson. 200 career strikeout. That will be talked about tonight. And most importantly, let's see what goes on in this Kentucky job search. Let's see how it goes. Who's going to be the next coach for Kentucky? We all want to know. The whole world's waiting. It's the biggest news in sports. So let's see how that goes. Once again, I'm your host, Joseph Decker. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this show, which was kind of put together in a text message sent last night at 12 a.m., basically, to me saying, I'll take the helm. I didn't know what time I wanted to do it. Ran home, got the computer, came back, set up here at Kyrock. So we didn't expect it to go like this. Didn't expect to have a show today. But we had to have one. We had to have 1 in 2 weeks. Once again, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for being great. Thank you for supporting one of my dreams in podcasting, the broadcasting, the show era. got a lot of more people I'm interested in getting on the show for baseball season, softball season as well. And once again, we are in a sense, it feels like always our number one thing is basketball. So basketball season might be over for college tonight. It might be over for high school level. NBA is kind of just now about to go into the playoffs, but we're not done with basketball. We're going to update you all summer long, all until now for basketball. Then we're going right back into it next season. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Love you guys. Amazing support, what you give us. Amazing fan base. God bless you all. Tune in to our next stream. I'll let you guys know when it is. And